Hey folks, I am worried about the relationship between South Africa and the United States of America. It's been it's been trending downwards the entire year this year, or ever since President Trump got back into office. And I think the issues that are between these countries right now, I can say they are well sort of understood and well defined, and the relationship is getting worse and worse. And I must say that it seems to me that there are morons on both sides who are just doing everything in their power to inflame passions, who are not trying to cool passions and reach a place of common understanding. And what is happening is that both of these nations are driving each other further and further away from one another. And to a certain extent, I understand both sides. I understand both of their concerns. I think there are certain issues, for instance, that the United States and South Africa would never agree on as things stand right now. And one of those issues are the issue of Israel and the fact that South Africa is sort of friendly with the nations that the United States consider its enemies, like Russia, China, and Iran to a certain extent, even though it's not true that Iran had anything to do with the case that South Africa brought before the International Criminal, the ICJ. And there's obviously also the issue of the allegation of white genocide in South Africa, which is not happening. It's just simply false. There is no other way of putting it. It is just false. There is no genocide of white South Africans. It's not happening. And white South Africans, when they get murdered in South Africa, it is not because of the color of their skin. It is just not true. And one of these things about this issue of white genocide, it's actually quite upsetting. It's upsetting because it's just simply not true. It's not true. South Africa is a very violent country. Right now, we just came out of, as a country, South Africa, of some sort of march against gender-based violence and all that crap. Even though, for instance, women represent an absolute minority of all homicides in South Africa, though they are the majority of the population in South Africa. They make up 30% of the homicides. But we have to endure this notion that there's somehow a femicide happening in South Africa. And when it comes to white South Africans, it's even a crazy notion, because white South Africans, who make up 9% of the population in South Africa, make up less than 2% of the femicides in South Africa. There is just simply no genocide of white people in South Africa, number one. And number two, there's not even a single white farmer in South Africa who has had their farm being taken from them. It hasn't happened. And because this is the claims that President Trump made in his statement when he announced that South Africa will not be invited to the G20. He made false statements. He made false statements about Afrikaners having their farmers taken. Every single person who is making a statement about farmers having their land taken from them must give you a single Afrikaner farmer whose farm has been taken from them. Excuse me. They have to provide you a single name, a single farmer whose farm was taken away from them. There's not even a single white farmer whose farm has been taken away from them. There is no white genocide in South Africa. And what tends to happen is that once you dispel these things that are not happening, then they move to the issue of so-called race-based laws. And that issue of debating affirmative action laws and BE and all those things, those are things which we can debate until the cows come home. We can debate those things. Those are things that are within debate in the political sphere. But conflating those issues around affirmative action and lying about white genocide in South Africa, that's really for me what annoys me, because when you can't make an argument that white farmers are being killed on the account of their race, then you backpedal, moving to the issue of affirmative action laws, which even in the United States of America, affirmative action have been practiced in the United States of America longer than it's been practiced in South Africa. So is the United States of America a racist nation because it has had affirmative action laws for more than 50 years? It is only last year or in 2023 where the US Supreme Court made it out illegal for universities to consider race in university admissions in the United States. University admissions have always used race in admissions for the past 50 years in the United States of America. The United States have also used race in the issue of contractors for the federal government coming out of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. These things have been practiced in the United States for 50 years, and there have been vigorous debate in the United States about the issues around affirmative action. So we can debate affirmative action, we can agree and disagree with it, and none of that is evidence of Afrikaners being victims of genocide in South Africa. But with that said, we know that there is no genocide of white South Africans are not being killed on the account of race. We know that the single white farmer has had their farm being taken away from them. But these are the reasons that President Trump relied on in terms of saying that South Africa is not welcome to attend the G20 in the United States in Miami next year. And with that said, even though I disagree with those falsehoods that come out of the White House, I don't think that it is helpful for the South African government to intentionally antagonize the United States of America. The United States of America is a powerful nation, way more powerful than South Africa, and sadly, South Africa needs the United States more than the United States needs South Africa. And so there's a lot of political posturing that the South African government has been doing in the past couple of days, which I just find it in poor taste and not helpful in a situation where South Africa and the United States of America are in this ongoing conflict. And if for instance, the United States wants to stop sending aid to South Africa for various programs, especially the HIV programs, I'm fine with that. I think that South Africa should be paying for its own HIV programs. But as much as the accusations that are being leveled against South Africa are false, I think that the way that South African government is conducting itself in this conflict is not helping the situation. in a situation like that, it's better to, if you're going to have strong words against your counterparts, have them in private or have them when you're doing the back dealing and the diplomatic engagements. A lot of these reckless statements that have been made by South African government officials, like how the Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola, accused the United States of America of white supremacy and things like that, and the South African president making statements about we will not be bullied. And for me, it's not even about the issue of whether I agree about whether the US is bullying South Africa or not. The principle that I'm making here is that these statements are not helping. They're not helping. They're not bringing a party who you're already having very sour relations with. They're not making them be more inclined to listen to you. And therefore, for me, the question then is, what is the purpose of these statements? When you're doing all of this posturing, especially posturing that is directed towards the local South African audience and towards the West hating East, what is its purpose and how does it help South Africa? That's for me really the question that I would like to understand. How does any of the political posturing that's the South African government, from the president to the Minister of Foreign Relations, help South Africa? Because you can be right on the facts and still lose. Because when someone is as powerful as the United States is, they can destroy your economy on simply by a stroke of the pen. So you can still be right and have your economy be completely destroyed. So then the question for me that I'm asking is that, how does any of this political posturing help South Africa? How does it help the 45% South Africans who are unemployed? There are talks now in Capitol Hill about removing South Africa from AGOA, and there's a president in the White House who I think would actually sign that into law. And we have all this political posturing. And I ask myself, to what end? To what end?